Hi, and welcome to Coping During the COVID Crisis. I'm Janet Gross. For months and months and months now, we've all been dealing with COVID restrictions, with all of the separation and distancing and mask wearing. So what effect is that having on single people who would like to meet new people and maybe find someone special? How do you manage that struggle to get closer to somebody while you're still supposed to keep your distance? Well, Dr. Roy Salgado, professor of counseling at the University of Holy Cross, is here to talk about that crazy situation today. And it is crazy, Roy.
It is. You know, we all have our different phases of life, and we've talked about a number of different things. We've talked about, children and going back to school. We've talked about other different phases, but there's a very special phase of life, that of young adulthood, when you're seeking to become independent and separate from your family of origin and meet new people and become your own person and figure out who you are and meet a special someone. And how do you do that in a pandemic? How do you find love in a time of COVID? And so there's some young adults, people out there who are struggling with this and having to become creative and learning how to navigate this very special time of finding intimacy in a time where we're all being encouraged to isolate and withdraw from other people. And how can you maintain that social distance while trying to connect with someone in a very critical time of one's development, when the number one goal is to pair up and find someone special to perhaps enjoy your life with.
And you see all that, the trouble it brings when you can't overcome the urge, and so you go ahead and you meet at colleges and
right.
Things like that. When and it does cause some issues. So to be responsible, you're pulling yourself out of the mix.
Yeah, and you're asking a segment of the population, young adults, who have this need more so than other age groups, to congregate and be social and be friendly and make friends and perhaps find someone to partner up with. You're asking them not to do that. You're asking them to separate, to isolate, to withdraw, to keep a distance. And it goes contrary to what biology and the body is asking for you to do. And you're saying, but if you want to stay healthy and safe, you need to maintain that distance. And so it's just this contradiction with the self and the greater good of society right now. And so, with some of the clients that we've worked with at the University of Holy Cross, as well as in the community at large, we've come up with some ideas as to how they can meet both, where they can perhaps, if you're in this phase of life, if you're single, if you're dating, if you're looking to partner up with someone, how do you go and meet somebody in this strange situation? How do you find love in the time of COVID, when you're being asked to socially distance? It's more difficult, it's more challenging, but nevertheless, where there's a will, there's a way, and it is possible.
And with being a university and a counseling center, you have all that knowledge right there, because you're dealing with that age, and you have people who are experienced in helping.
Right. We've had several students and we've had several young people who have been in the college situation. They've met somebody, they've liked that person, and they started to get to know one another, and then it came to a stop, it came to a halt, and what do you do?
Right.
And so then they've had to connect through different platforms, through Zoom, through Snapchat, through Facebook, through Instagram, through whatever social media is out there and available to them. But they've been able to do that. But is it the same thing? Is it the same thing to connect and develop that sort of intimacy with someone and get to know someone through a screen? And so they struggle with that, yet they become creative. One of the things that has been perhaps helpful with some of the clients that we work with is we've encouraged them to really think outside the box. Perhaps you can't go to a movie theater with a date. You can't bring someone to a movie theater, or you can't go to a restaurant in quite the same way that other generations have been able to do.
Where you pack it in.
Where you pack it in. Or, if you're over the age of 21, where people perhaps are able to go to a bar and drink. That's just something that, 20-somethings can't do right now and expect to be fully safe.
So, and certainly in the enormous quantity of people,
right.
As restrictions loosen, you might be able to go different places, but still not the, raucous kind of fun and crazy.
Right. But we can think outside the box and do things differently. And one of the things that clients have come up with is visiting different websites and see what the city of New Orleans, with guidelines, is able to offer. The New Orleans Recreational Development Commission, for example, has a number of different great opportunities to do things free of charge in the city of New Orleans. This is for single people, this is for people who are dating, this is for married people, this is for families, for groups of people, small groups within your household, to be able to go and enjoy wonderful things in our city. We have great things in this area where you can go and be able to connect with people that you want to connect with, whether it's fishing in one of our numerous bayous and lakes and waterways here in this state, whether it's taking little hikes or trails in different parks in the area. But there's a number of different things that people can do to still have that life, that romance, that creativity to get to know one another while maintaining a distance perhaps from others, but developing an intimacy and a closeness with those that you are interested in.
And there's really a benefit. I was just listening to you, I thought, boy, you are getting to know someone.
Right.
Before the relationship goes too far, before, not too far, but what I'm saying, before you get really serious, you're actually getting to know the person.
Yeah, and I would say that perhaps you're probably getting to know someone better at a park or fishing or in some sort of outdoor natural way, as opposed to a movie theater or a crowded bar or a dinner. I think that perhaps, unbeknownst to us, these are greater opportunities to get to truly know someone as opposed to the ways that previous generations have done it.
Because you have to actually listen.
Right, and there's no distractions.
Right, there's nothing like going on that you can, divert, but you have to actually know each other.
Maybe turn off the cell phone while you're out there,
Look
right?
at there.
Or go to a place where there's no signal.
There you go. And you know what, before we go on, I want to talk about the service that the University of Holy Cross does offer, for those who may not know about it yet.
Yes, for the whole duration of this pandemic, we have offered telebehavioral health, telecounseling to the state of Louisiana, to residents in the state, free of charge. All they have to do is contact the number, and the administrative assistant will take the call, triage it to the clinical director, who will then assign it to a counselor in training, and we are able to offer services to the residents of Louisiana free of charge. And we are covering all sorts of topics dealing with COVID, including that of that isolation that we're experiencing, and for people who are looking to develop intimacy with other people. Because we're social beings. We don't typically want to be alone. There might be that individual who just prefers to be, alone and isolated, which is fine. But then there are others who are having a difficult time right now because they want to be with others and perhaps find someone special. And
so for help, for talking it through, all those things, tips even, this is a good service.
Absolutely. Okay,
and we'll put the number up throughout the show so that if anybody is interested, they can call.
Certainly.
Okay, great. Well, when we come back, we'll have some suggestions, advice, and considerations for those who are dating or looking for that special someone during this time of separation. Stay with us.
You're the engine that makes all things go, and you're always in disguise, my hero. I see your light in the dark, smile in my face when we all know it's hard. You're doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now, know that you matter, matter.
And welcome back. For much of this year so far, it's been a totally different dating world out there. The usual casual ways to meet new people have been off limits, or at least restricted. Dr. Matt Morris, professor of marriage and family counseling at the University of Holy Cross, joins us to talk about how to cope. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Sure. So we have been talking about how single people can meet people without and still keep their distance. That's hard. That's difficult.
It is. It is really difficult. It's a difficult time for singles who are looking to connect. I mean, the reality is we all want to be in relationship. We all need relationships, where many of us are looking for love, and COVID has presented us with a very unique set of challenges for finding love.
Right. Even when you can see someone's face, you can see it through a mask. So you really can't even get, until you get to the point where you can sit together, you can't even see expressions, which are key to, is this going to work or not,
Yeah, I mean, just to put this a little bit in context, dating for young people is really appropriate and developmentally appropriate. It's a really important phase of life to be able to put yourself out there and meet people and find people that you connect with. And so certainly doing that through the barriers of PPE and masks and all of that is difficult. Most people aren't, connecting through a mask, they're connecting through a screen. Most people are using technology as a way to meet people, to have those initial screening dates, to have those first dates. They're not doing it in person. They're not doing it at restaurants and bars and movie theaters. They're doing it like we are now over a screen.
And that takes a little bit of extra planning, I think, to, certainly find somebody who might be compatible, whether it's a dating app or service or whatever. And then you have to be on pretty much the whole time because you got this much,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. For the generation younger than me, they're used to talking to each other on screen. So what might typically happen is that they're using dating apps to find each other and connect using some kind of video service like FaceTime or Zoom. But then pretty quickly, those relationships would move toward let's meet somewhere in person. So COVID is making that next step all the more difficult, as some people are really nervous about leaving home or meeting in person, and some people are a little bit more cavalier about that. And so there's discrepancies in willingness to meet in person. What we are finding is that when people do decide to meet in person, they're doing it in these more intimate and secluded ways. They're meeting at the park, they're meeting for a walk, they're meeting on a front porch, they're meeting, with their cars kind of parallelly parked together, rather than at a bar or at a venue that would be typical in New Orleans.
So do you think that takes a little bit more work? I know Roy and I were talking about how it might take a little more work to get to that part, a little more planning, a little more thought.
I think it is. I think that, we are used to meeting up with each other in entertainment settings. So we're used to meeting up with each other at restaurants and bars and concerts and places like that. So if those are off the table, people are having to be a little bit more thoughtful about where they can meet safely. And that is taking a little bit more effort. We're also hearing lots of success stories that people are enjoying some of the new dating opportunities, that dating in some ways has slowed down. It's becoming less touch oriented. People aren't touching as much as quickly. There's less kind of this romantic intimacy. There's more of getting to know one another through conversation, and really thoughtfully spending time together. So I'm also hearing people say that they're enjoying the new slow dating, if you will.
It's very interesting because there are two very interesting points that Dr. Morris has just brought up. The first point of this generation of young adults who is used to communicating through a screen. They've done it through video games, they've done it through other media and other ways of connecting. This dating situation is just another way of connecting through a screen. And then secondly, the slowing down of taking time to get to know one another is that added unintended positive bonus, I would say, for two individuals to get to know each other truly and not be distracted by some entertainment that's taking place. It allows you to really connect in a more meaningful way.
And that is not familiar to a lot of young people because there's so much going on.
Right. And so, we have to look at the positives, of all sorts of things. And not everything is 100% negative. There are some good unintended positive things that come out of very difficult situations.
Absolutely. So how can counseling help with people who might have issues with this or just looking for advice on how to negotiate this world?
Yeah, I think in terms of counseling, we can talk with clients and clients can talk with us about safety measures, about ways to make these times more intentional and more thoughtful, of how to have conversations that are more likely to lead to connection, but also provide that sense of security that people are looking for right now. Practically, we want to feel safe and healthy, but we also want to feel emotionally safe and secure. And so counseling can help in those ways. I want to add a couple of other caveats to this discussion is that dating online or dating during COVID is not just for the young. There's all kinds of people out there who are looking for love. And so, you know, throughout generations, people have had to connect by distance. And so that happened through letter writing at a certain period of time, or other ways in which, you know, phone conversations, people have dated by distance. And this is another version of that. What I'm talking with about clients with COVID in general is that COVID has presented us with a unique opportunity to do things differently than we have been doing them. So as that applies to dating, if you're not happy with your dating life, if you're not happy with the standard set of dates that everybody goes on, this is a chance to do it differently. I recently heard about a couple who would create these potluck meals on their porch where each of them would bring a takeout meal, and they would sit more than 6 feet away, and they would stay masked appropriately, but they would share a meal together from afar, and it allowed them to just really talk and connect and not be caught up with the restaurant environment around them, or looking a certain way, or feeling judged by everybody around them, but just a different way to date. And I think that's what COVID is presenting so many people during this time of connecting and dating.
And it sounds like what is presenting itself is authenticity. People are allowed to be more authentic when they interact with another person in a way that other venues don't allow. And you get to really see that person in a new way and in a very genuine way that perhaps leads to an even greater and more on-point attraction.
And you get to talk things through too.
Right.
So it's not just, oh, they said that, I don't like them, but you actually have a conversation and you say, okay, I see your point of view, or things
Right.
that it's a real friendship.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Dr. Morris, we thank you so much for joining us and for talking us through. I love his ideas. That's, we're going to talk some more about what he just brought up too. We'll be back in a minute with more ideas on romance and dating during the pandemic. Stay with us. Keeping your distance from others is difficult, just going to the grocery or to church or to school. But when you have to keep plenty of space between you and someone you're trying to meet, it's really tough. Someone you might like or want to date or hang out with. Well, we want to bring in Danielle Lafort, University of Holy Cross counselor, to talk about those kinds of things and situations. And I know that you have seen this in your counseling sessions as well, where people are just trying to figure out a new way in this world to be together, to meet each other.
Yeah, it's been really challenging for people. I think there's been a lot of apprehension, especially among people who are trying to date in the middle of this pandemic. And they're having to get really creative while thinking about how to do this and how to approach this new way of connecting.
Mm-hmm. And I know Roy and I were just talking about how in the past, and years ago, dating, you had to meet somebody online, it would be like, But now it's like, you meet in person?
What? You met someone out in the real world? What's wrong with you? That's not safe. You need to meet.
Right. And it's distance.
Distance, online. How things change.
Right. It is a new world, and I guess you are getting a lot of that from younger people and from even people who are older, maybe a second time around, maybe looking for someone else in their life.
Yeah, sure, certainly. There's many people out there that are still looking for love, maybe the second or third or even fourth time around. True believers in finding love, everlasting love. And, it's been challenging because, right now a lot of people are going online to date. And then once you connect, they're having to get really creative about how they're going to do this date style, this physical distancing style of dating. So I heard recently that somebody even went for a snowball so that they could still have a little bit of physical distancing and but also feel connected in that process. So I think people are getting really creative, walks in the park and just outdoor activities where they can still talk and feel connected and partake in this new way of dating.
And I think that as people get creative, it allows for the opportunity to showcase how unique you are, how creative you can be, how thoughtful you are. And those things are attractive, as opposed to doing the same thing. Okay, we went to dinner, we went to a movie, we went to a bar, that's old hat, that doesn't take much creativity. But to come up with new ways, to perhaps, go kayaking or on a hike or a picnic or whatever it is that people come up with, it shows a genuine interest, and perhaps that is of value to the person that you're trying to court and date.
I think that is. I mean, Danielle, I'm sure that you've seen people trying different ways just to make an impression.
Yeah, definitely. People have to get creative right now. Because Dr. Salgado was saying, the bars have been closed, our music venues, our museums, everything's been closed. And so people are having to get really creative on how they're going to do that. We've even seen where there's outdoor movies now. And I feel like a lot of people are going back to the roots of the old ways, which are really impactful. And I think in many ways, very healing for people right now. And kind of getting away from the old hat and moving into this new way, which is so old in very, similar ways, I think. Mm-hmm. So.
And I've heard where people are expanding Zoom or those kind of platforms too. All right, let's watch the same movie. And everybody has some refreshments, but you're watching the movie over that, and so you can kind of talk like you're at the movies.
Right. I don't even know how that works, but they do it. They can watch a movie on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and they're
getting the
interacting.
Start time right is the key.
And they're interacting. I think it's phenomenal that they're able to do that. But it's a good thing that they are.
Mm-hmm. And the drive-in movie theater that you just mentioned, I remember when I was really, they were dying, but you could still go to one, you know?
I remember. I was very young, and I remember those driving movie theaters. They were fun.
You could have your own food with you, everything. It was great.
Yeah, I remember doing that when I was a kid. Whenever I went to California, there was a drive-in movie theater, and so I remember that. And that being really incredible. What an incredible experience. And so, I think, people are just also doing a lot of self-care right now. I'm seeing that, especially among our older people, right? Where they're learning that it's okay to take some time for themselves and going on personal journeys of healing and growth and just really being okay with being alone at times and also connecting when they feel like it's right for them.
Yeah, human beings have that unique way of being resilient and adapting. We're here as a species because we've adapted to our environment over the course of millennia. And so this is no different. We're adapting yet again, and we're going to get through this and survive as individuals, as members of a couple, as members of a family, of a tribe, of a nation, whatever. We're gonna get through it. It's just gonna look a little different, and it's looking a little different. We're in that adaptation transition period, which is exciting. It's a perhaps flipping on its head and being excited about the opportunities that have presented themselves as opposed to being apprehensive about what seems like limits.
And with a little work, you could be on the forefront.
Absolutely.
A little work, and we were talking about that too, that somebody said, wow, that seems like a lot of work.
Anything worthwhile takes a lot of work. If you want to be in shape, that takes a lot of work. If you want to have a degree, that takes a lot of work. If you want to have a good relationship, that takes a lot of work.
COVID or not.
COVID or not.
Yeah, so it's a good lesson.
Yes.
I think it is. Briefly, I know that some of these couples-to-be are having a lot of issues, with you don't know how many people you can have at your wedding, or, should you uninvite people? All those are big stressors at a time when it's normally a stressful time. Are you getting any of that, or do you have any advice for people who are, going through that right now?
I haven't seen a whole lot of wedding planning happening right now. I mean, we know that it's still happening. I know several people in the wedding industry, by chance, I think. And I think what people are doing is they're trying to just become more aware and protect themselves and have conversations about how others are also protecting themselves and what are the rules of protection, right? And how can people feel safe, creating these social environments where people are able to get together and celebrate love. But I think that I think just becoming aware, I think, and knowing how to handle this potential virus, of getting the virus.
Yeah, we all have to really, watch what we're doing. We don't want to be the cause of a spread,
Right.
or not have a whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just have to be smart about it.
And most people have been responsible. They have adapted. They've changed their plans. I happen to know of a lovely couple who has gotten married during this time in COVID, neighbors of mine, and they went from their big initial wedding plan to a smaller size in their backyard with just a wedding party, and they live streamed it. And we were fortunate enough, because we were neighbors, to look over the fence and be distant participants.
You crashed the wedding.
We crashed the wedding. I crashed a wedding during COVID. And it's just, people are doing what they need to do to still maintain those very important things that build society, that of relationship and couples and family. And it's still happening. Human beings are not going to shy away from that simply because we're faced with something like a pandemic.
Okay. Well, thank you, Danielle, for joining us and talking this through with us. We really appreciate it. Okay, and Roy, you have some tips for us. Sure.
Absolutely. Week after week, we keep talking about we still need to maintain that distance. Social distance is very important. We need to cover our mouths and our nose with a mask whenever we go anywhere. We need to wash our hands frequently, disinfect and clean commonly used areas, and we need to visit the NORD website to come up with fun and safer ideas to be able to enjoy time during dating and love in the time of COVID, and manage and slow the spread while still experiencing the good things in life, such as love, that are still out there.
Always good advice for that part. Just enjoy it. Slow it down. Really be in the moment.
Life is wonderful.
It is. All right, Dr. Roy, thank you so much. Roy Salgado and all of your colleagues at the University of Holy Cross for joining us. And we thank you for watching. We want to help as we are all coping during the COVID crisis.